So today I'm going to be reviewing a game which came out about a decade ago, The Legend of Heroes: Trails of Cold Steel 1. And before I get into any sort of detail, you'll notice my captured footage isn't really footage at all. It's going to be mostly, if not all, screenshots. And that's due to me playing this entry specifically on the Steam Deck. And that, of course, is due to the fact that the Steam Deck doesn't have a first-party way of capturing screen footage. It can only be done through like third-party apps, and I just didn't want to deal with that hassle of installing as well as slowing down the Steam Deck. So this entry, of course, is part of Nihon Falcom's larger series called The Legend of Heroes. Trails of Cold Steel, as well as games that occurred before as well as after, take place on a continent called Zemuria. Many of these titles have taken a while to translate to English too, and as well as release into North America. The best example of this would be Trails to Azure, which released September of 2011 in Japan, but didn't make it to North America until March of 2023. After my time of 60 hours or so with Trails of Cold Steel 1, one big reason I could see for the large delay, or a large delay with games in this series, is just the big amount of text and dialogue that comes with all of them. And that, of course, appears to be the norm on all parts of the entry. Large amounts of text like this are kind of par for the course, one of the many of the hallmarks for JRPGs, and that's what this entry and the series overall as a whole is. Beyond spin-offs, of course, like Legend of Niyuta, Boundless Trails. What's cool for an old-school gamer such as myself is that this game specifically does turn-based battles. It's kind of similar to how Final Fantasy X worked, up to and including where it shows an order of turns for the players as well as for the opposition. With political intrigue similar to what Final Fantasy XII had, married by the Ys 4, Memories of Celceta, and the Persona 5 sort of gameplay loop, I often felt like I was playing an RPG that consisted of the best parts of all of those series. And while I've played the entirety of Nihon Falcom's Ys games, yet none of those from Trails, this was an interesting and fun experience in of itself. The player controls Rean Schwarzer, adopted son of the nobleman Baron Schwarzer, attending Thor's military academy in his first year as part of the newly formed Class 7. Rean spends his time learning academic lessons, which is reminiscent to Persona's teachers asking the protagonist questions in class, though this device becomes less and less an occurrence as the game itself continues. And when not in class, Rean takes practical exams, which are boss-like battles with special conditions, as well as having field studies across the Erebonian Empire. These trips are where Rean and his classmates learn of the many different lands, and especially the various political factions that are gearing up for a type of conflict. During these field studies, they must complete mandatory as well as optional side quests, which are like monster elimination and fetch quests, and areas are explored with enemies that appear on the screen, no random encounters at all, as well as treasure and breakable boxes that might contain items within. You know, standard JRPG fare. Rean must also complete side quests during his once-a-month free days for the student council, though included in this is a Persona's Tartarus / Mementos-like exploration of a building called the Old Schoolhouse. Now, I won't dive into the exact minutiae of how the battle system works, but suffice it to say, it's turn-based, and it is quite excellent. As mentioned, it takes Final Fantasy X's turn-based battle system, adds in 2 consumable systems called Arts and Crafts, while also taking player and enemy position into account as they appear on the battlefield. Using arts consumes EP, or energy points, and crafts consume CP, craft points. While EP can be refilled using items, as well as resting, CP cannot be so easily refilled. Instead, they're refilled by either attacking or getting attacked by enemies, some consumable items, as well as events like fishing. And they can be completely depleted if a player's character has fallen in battle, run out of hit points. arts are deployed via the Arcus's Quartz system. It's like Final Fantasy VII's Materia, and it lets players cast spells to attack enemies, as well as refill health or buff fellow characters in battle. These attacks and crafts can attack single enemies, while others have area of effects that span like long lines, larger circles, or sometimes the entirety of the battle arena itself. How standard battles are initiated can even impact if players or enemies themselves have the advantage or disadvantage in the battle. One thing I love about the battle system with this game is that go big or go home aspect, where there aren't any limiters at all on how much damage a player can dole out or how many total hit points a player has, though this of course cuts both ways, because enemies can also do more than 4 nines damage to you, and obviously they're going to have more than 4 nines or more than 4 digits worth of hit points, and things get quite big quite quick. Characters expand to over 1,000 hit points very quickly, and endgame hit point levels for my characters ended up totaling a little over 10,000 for me. I also love the variety of monsters too. Some of the battles against their own allies in special conditions, and some of the interactivity between the characters in battle too. I thought that was a really nice touch. When a linked attack battle ends, so if a battle ends and a linked attack is the result of it, the victory theme plays, but you see both of the characters sort of interact with one another. Again, it's a nice little touch, and really adds to the depth of the linked system. Now, I only had 2 real gripes with the battle system throughout my entire time of gameplay. One is the fact that there's just so many different statuses and status afflictions in the game. There are 26 total, and that doesn't count any of the stat modifiers or debuffs, such as strength up or strength down. Many of the boss battles would have them lead off with attacks that inflict some of the status debuffs, and I had quite a few game overs because an AoE attack gets put or inflicted against my entire party, and all but one might end up being out of commission outright. While I won't spoil the why that they appear to, another issue that I had was the mech battles at the near end of the game. Sorry, Gundam fans, I'm just not a fan of mechs at all. It was annoying being roughly 70 hours into the game and have such a fundamental battle component added right to the game and being necessary to beat the game. But besides that, again, I'm going to reiterate that the battle system itself was excellent, and it's a true commendation to Nihon Falcom in developing a fantastic battler. Now, while I've had some questionable experiences using the Steam Deck for games, my experience with Trails of Cold Steel was superb. The game ran absolutely perfectly and smoothly. Never once did I have any glitches, crashes, errors, or any issues. While the game ran great, it totally wasn't without a little bit of just some like graphical pop-in and maybe a couple other things like that. For example, sometimes the text that would appear during dialogue, it would appear like out of the box or out of the boxes. That's probably more like an aesthetic translation issue than anything. There was some missing punctuation at times, and I know that it may be pedantic, but I'm going to catch that sort of thing. All of the pedantry aside, though, some tutorial graphics did show PlayStation controls when, of course, I'm playing on the Steam Deck, and there were also some amply endowed female characters, and sometimes like their hands would clip into their own chests, and that would be we'll just say distracting, to say the least. The graphical style of the character portraits and the models themselves were very reminiscent to Ys 4, Memories of Celceta, originally released a year previous to when this game originally came out. Environments themselves are surprisingly detailed and varied, and it honestly looks really good for a 10-year-old game. Characters were quite expressive during storytelling, and to that end, the voice acting, when it does appear, is quite good. I recognized a number of voices from other games, which of course is a credit to the VAs themselves, since they have the chops to act so well to get multiple jobs. Beyond the VAs themselves, sound effects are fantastic and match quite well to what is going on visually expressed on the screen. The music, being a Nihon Falcom game, is outstanding. Composer Yukihiro Jindo, who helped arrange the music for the Ys series since 2006's Ys 6, Arc of Nepishtim, composed Trails of Cold Steel. And it matches many of the scenes in the game so very well. Tender scenes between characters are light and airy. Expanded worlds have themes that resound that sort of feeling of adventure, and character betrayals are steeled with tension thanks to the music playing in the background. The battle music is also excellent, while the boss music itself is probably the best banger track in the entire OST. Jindo, who also composed the best Ys game, Lacrimosa of Dana, really did an outstanding job, much to the surprise of no one, seeing how high a pedigree Nihon Falcom's music tends to be. The overall story takes place in the year 1204 in the Septian calendar, and follows the main protagonist Reen Schwarzer. The story itself is a wash of JRPG tropes, with Reen being one of the biggest examples. He's a plain, amiable character who everyone immediately places on a pedestal of leadership, yet he also has a dark, deus ex machina power he tries to hide until he doesn't. Supporting characters in the rest of Class 7 at Thor's Military Academy are composed of cookie-cutter personalities one usually sees in JRPGs like this. You got the sidekick character Elliot, the stuck-up reserve guys on opposite political spectrums Jusis and Machias, the tomboyish Laura, the amply bosomed Emma, and so on. To this last character, the game really lays on the sexual humor quite thick, perhaps to an almost cringy sexual harassment type level. One character even comments on another, possibly taking what they're saying to a harassment level. Beyond the cringe and the tropes, the story is altogether quite good, and ties in well with the events occurring throughout the game. Admittedly, the different groups, countries, and regions sometimes got a bit confusing, but after about 20 hours or so, I finally caught on. The Erebonian Empire itself is essentially being split by the 4 ruling noble houses, and the reformists who support both the emperor and the individual's freedoms. Not only that, there's a country or city called Crossspell that's vying for its own independence. Their rule is split by both Erebonia and a rival country called the Calvard Republic. Add to that a number of subgroups that are wholly independent of all of these, as well as outside groups such as the Bracers and the Jaegers. Sometimes it can get really confusing. As Reen and his classmates learn and do their field studies, they see the various lands across the Erebonian Empire and how some areas either support or oppose noble and reformist rule. Now overall, I would give The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 1 a 9 out of 10. The characters are quite engaging, as they can become more nuanced, though still kind of retain that JRPG feel to them. The story may come off as confusing, but the political plot itself is quite interesting, as it's plain to see where many of the characters lean in their own belief structures and how they interact with those of similar or even different beliefs. The battle system and music are outstanding. All of this combined made for an experience that I enjoyed during my 60-hour plus playthrough. And I'll leave you with the warning that if you're interested in this series, each game will be at least 60 hours or so. Even with the handy fast forward button that I took advantage of quite often, my time still added to that much according to the Steam Deck playtime check. I definitely recommend this game if you do like those long turn-based JRPGs. And let me know in the comments section below if you're interested in playing this, or if you already have, let me know your thoughts about your time with this entry or any others in the Legend of Heroes series. Please also like or dislike this video, and remember to subscribe and ring that bell for notifications. Thanks again for watching, and have a great day.